welcome back to Third Rate Content. Today we are in Baschurch, a village of Shropshire, and we are going to be looking at some of its ancient history, finding the closed railway station of Baschurch, which has been out of use for ages but still stands, and like I say, having a look at some of the places of worship, former places of worship and still current here in Baschurch, and like I say, finding out some of its history, and some of it ties in with stuff we've covered in the last 12 months, including Cyndylan, or as I found, you have to excuse my pronunciations, as it is pronounced in Welsh, Cymdylan. I like saying Cyndylan, but I am English, and we'll see how we go on, which pronunciation I use. So buckle up and I'll see you out here. Yeah, Baschurch has been around for a long time. Its earliest mention was in the Welsh poem, and it was called then Egwalsa Bassa. Excuse the pronunciation, but that is the churches of Bassa, and it was mentioned in a poem which we will hear about a bit more of later. Yeah, as you can see, right behind me is the site of the former world's first orthopaedic hospital here in Baschurch, founded by Agnes Hunt, Dame Agnes Hunt, over 100 years ago. It did eventually move to what is now Gabowen, but this was founded to treat crippled children and crippled people, so it really was a fantastic thing for the world, but it moved on to tending to people badly injured from World War I also. Yeah, Dame Agnes Hunt is also memorialised in the church that we're going to go and have a look at shortly. The Admiral Duncan pub dates from the late 18th century. The pub got its name from Viscount Admiral Adam Duncan, who was a notable naval commander of the 18th century. The actual Baschurch connection is that it is said that timbers from his flagship HMS Venerable were sourced from local nearby woods. The Admiral Duncan, as of February 2024, is a pub and split with the Admiral Spice, I think, sort of curry house. And now on Baschurch Village Green itself. Village Greens, as we know them, as the remnant of what's left of that we know as Baschurch Village Green, is an example in the middle of villages, date back to the Middle Ages and probably but just before, and villagers needed somewhere safe to leave livestock, and other things, where in a central area where it was safe in the evenings. They got the old Baschurch pump here with this really old trough here on Baschurch Village Green. But you've also got this massive obelisk. It really does look megalithic, but it is actually the Baschurch Millennium Memorial. But it looks like it's been here for thousands of years. But apparently it hasn't. I just asked the local to confirm it, and they said, yeah, it's definitely from 24 years ago. Bit different. I've seen much more boring millennium commemorative memorials. Yeah, I like that one. This former Victorian Methodist chapel was built in 1873, but it's closed in April 2015 after its congregation dwindled. Now it's just down to a few. Yeah, I haven't actually had any chips from there. I do like my chips, but I've already had something to eat. The now disused signal box here at Baschurch Station, disused station, was built in 1880 and is a Grade 2 listed building. And this building would have been, I believe, the pump house for Baschurch train station. It's in itself a Grade 2 listed building. But it looks great in the sandstone block work. It looks really medieval. So Baschurch was on the Shrewsbury and Chester Railway, which opened on the 14th of October 1848. So behind me is the former Baschurch train station. As you can see, it hasn't been in use for many years. This gorgeous train station building with its faded glamour was designed by the architect T.M. Penson of Chester. It's designed, like most of Penson's station designs, in the Tudor cottage ornate style. You can see Penson's work if you travel by rail from Chester Railway Station, Shrewsbury, Wrexham, Rhuaben. He also designed churches in Rill, Oswestry and Lanarmonach, I think. In 1903, 27,826 passenger tickets were sold at Baschurch Station and 14,535 parcels were sent via rail from here. By 1913, passengers had grown to 29,351 and parcels traffic had grown to 35,200, a massive growth in that 10 years. And by 1933, 20 years later, passenger ticket sales were down to 14,865. This is probably because of competitions from bus services, but parcel traffic had continued to grow, and by that time there was 88,261 parcels leaving Baschurch. I wonder if it's grown all the way through the 20th century and through the early 21st century. The signal keeper's cottage on the left there. 3 railway employees were killed in a serious accident that occurred at Baschurch Station on Monday the 13th of February 1961 at 7:35 p.m. The accident involved the Coton Hill to Saltney goods train on a Wellington to Chester general passenger train. They collided after one of the trains had pulled into a siding and there was a mix-up in communication, and the other train hit it at full speed while it was sort of parked on the siding. It was a terrible disaster. Passenger services were finally withdrawn from Baschurch, along with many other of the Chester Shrewsbury roadside stations on the 12th of September 1960. So we're going to leave the site of the former Baschurch station, and we're now going to go see if we can find the church, the ancient church of Baschurch, and find out some of the history of Bassa So let's go. Shrewsbury Abbey established a new town at Baschurch where the right to hold fairs and markets was granted in 1256. And elements of planning and boundaries can be seen in the area of Baschurch called Newtown, where we are right now. Ancient stone walls. Some of these go back and could well have been reused. Yeah, just before we get to the church, we have actually got another of Baschurch's pubs here behind me, the New Inn. Records show there has been a pub here in this building at the New Inn since 1841 at least. Baschurch's antiquity as a place of Christian worship is confirmed by the entry in the Domesday Book recording that St. Peter's Church, which is Shrewsbury Abbey, held 2.5 hides of this manor and the village church from the Earl Roger de Montgomery. The church now consists of a western tower with nave, chancel and south aisle. The tower is in the Early English style, with a later belfry and battlements, and an arcade dividing the nave from the south aisle. It looks quite Norman, with its arches that you can see here on the right. Yeah, this medieval church also had a north aisle, but in 1789, because of the ruinous state of the church, Thomas Telford directed its removal. In the British Museum is a 10th century manuscript which includes the family trees of important early medieval chieftains. The manuscript, known as the Harleian Genealogies, reveals the name of a king who ruled Paris in the years around 500 AD. The king was known as Owen Thant Gwen. The monk Gildas, in his On the Ruin and Conquest of Britain, written around AD 545, praises the king as a valiant and powerful warrior, referring to him by his title, the Bear. It was tradition at that time for high-status individuals to be given the honorary name of a real or mythical creature to symbolise their prowess. And bear, in Brythonic, which was the daily used language of people in Britain in this era, the word for bear was arth. In fact, this is still the word for a bear in modern Welsh that were derived from Brythonic. Could this be the origin of the name Arthur? Wow, it does sound like quite a coincidence. Corporal Richard Lewis, 1792 to 1875. Regiment of Foot, Royal Welsh Fusiliers, Waterloo. Survived it. What a hero. In the work, the Song of Luach the Old relates how the Penguin King, Cymdilyn, had been a direct descendant of King Arthur, possibly the last blood descendant of King Arthur.
And it is thought by Graham Phillips and others that King Arthur's burial place is at the Birth, which is very nearby to where we are today in Baschurch. The man thought of as Arthur's last descendant, Cynddylan, is mentioned in an early 7th century poem written about him. They got the Mar Wad Cynddylan, the death song of Cynddylan, and the Canu Helad, which we'll hear about in a minute. The poem tells of Cynddylan fighting alongside King Penda of Mercia against the invading Northumbrians, in particular at the Battle of Maes Cogwy, Oswestry. Here they killed their enemy, King Oswald, after whom Oswestry was named, Oswald's Tree, where he was hacked to bits. Oswald was hacked to bits. However, 14 years later, after Penda had died, Oswald's still angry brother, Oswy, thought it was about time to revenge his brother's death and attacked Lillis Penguin in a raid, and Cynddylan was cut to death. And what's also interesting is there is a St. Oswald's Well in Oswestry, but also in Winwick near Warrington. We're just looking at that here. So it isn't quite known because it's so long ago and there's so little historical record. The Battle of Oswestry could have been anywhere between Oswestry and Warrington, as the Church of St. Oswald and the Well of St. Oswald attest to. This is the belief of certain historians, of course.
So the earliest recorded mentions of Baschurch are in a 9th century poem. Eglawesu Bassa, the churches of Bassa. It is from the Welsh cycle of poems known as the Canu Helad, which was written by one of the sisters of Cynddylan, or Cynddylan, the only surviving sibling of Cynddylan after the battle against the Saxons that took place just around here all those years ago. Baschurch is crumbling tonight. My tongue caused it. It is reddened. So great is my sorrow. Baschurch is confined tonight. Its clover is bloody. It is reddened. Too much is my emotion. Baschurch has lost its privilege after the slaying by English warriors of Cynddylan and Elfam Powys. Baschurch is destroyed tonight. Its warriors are no more. Men know, and me here. It is glowing tonight, reddened, and I am sorrowful. It is reddened. Too great is my grief. Yeah, this yew tree looks ancient. He's actually got a concrete base. Yeah, but going off the one at nearby Wrighton's Levantines, that was supposedly 2,500 years old. So this could be as old, older, or nearly as old. This could have been here when the battle that finished off Cynddylan or Cynddylan and his brothers and most of his sisters happened. A final memory. You know, and the sorrow, as that poem does very adequately remember, would have been felt all around here what there was of Baschurch then would have been destroyed by the Saxons, and very little, if anything, left. So, and all the loss of life of a generation or 2 generations of the manhood of St Dillon, his sons, relatives, brothers and comrades. As I said, everyone else moved further west into what is now Wales. See the sundial, and it is very accurate, I think. It's just gone 2 o'clock.
Here in the south wall are the remains of a segmental arch, I believe, apparently dating from the end of the 13th century. It could be the remains of a cedille for the priest.
So thank you for watching to the end of today's third rate content. Been really interesting. Love seeing the old train station and hearing about, once again, St Dillon, Cum Dillon, and the battle that took place right around here that changed history in those far away early medieval dark ages. And although it's almost something that we don't really have much records of now, you can almost feel it round here, the sadness that was felt by St Dillon's sister, and the losses of lives and all that, you know, history, mystery, folklore and legend. It all happened round here. But like I said, thanks for watching to the end. If you did enjoy today, why don't you leave a like, think about subscribing and hit the notification bell for all future third rate contents goings on. But yeah, thank you. And if I don't see you soon, I'll see you 3 times as soon. Third rate content, signing out. Bye bye.